podcast is the first ever English-speaking bi-weekly news podcast.
We discuss news topics, travel, business, and more.
To find out more about the news topics you'll hear about today, check out our news affiliate, chiletoday.cl.
If you have a question, a story to share, or just want to say hey, email us at chiletodaypodcast@gmail.com, at Chile Today Podcast on Instagram or on Facebook.
If you're feeling generous, please rate and review us, arvejas, wherever you listen, so more folks can find our podcast. I'm not doing it again.
Okay, fine.
This is how it is.
Yeah, you should leave that in as the intro.
Yeah.
With a banter and everything. It's like, okay, those guys are professionals. Not.
Yes, we're so professional. How are you, Lenny?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. You know that people can hear the clicky-clacky of your keyboard.
Yeah, because I wasn't aware that you wanted to dive right into it, but now I'm 100% focused.
Now you're 100% focused. I was like, you gonna do some work over there while we're trying to record a podcast?
Yeah, well, I'm a terribly important, horribly busy man, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I ain't got not much time.
What are you doing these days?
Oh boy, I've been trying to hawk my product at the fair today.
What do you mean?
I mean, not that kind of product, you know? I mean...
hawk my product at the fair.
Yeah, I mean, they're addictive, legally addictive, like the drinks. Addictive.
No, I mean, explain to our listeners what you
hawk.
hawk.
Yeah, no, I have a small company together with two friends of mine. We're importing basically organic lemonades from Germany, which have been selling quite well.
They're delicious. We've talked about them on the podcast before. Tell them all about it. This is your platform.
Okay, all right. Don't have to tell me twice. So those are basically organic lemonades, organic carbonated juices, if you want to, made from all organic ingredients. Damn it, sorry.
More pisco for you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, it's gonna help. So yeah, so we're importing all organic lemonades, carbonated juices, if you will, made from all organic ingredients, and they're slightly carbonated. And
my favorite is the apple.
Exactly, we got apple, we got passion fruit, orange, we got cherry, pomegranate, we got lemon.
Pomegranate.
Not pomegranate. No, hold on. What's it called?
Pomegranate.
Come on, the other thing.
Granada? No.
Yeah, granada.
Pomegranate.
No, that is pomegranate.
You said pomegranate.
Oh yeah, well, that's my radical roots, thinking about grenades and shit. Yeah,
well, yeah. After the election, stay tuned.
Exactly. So we can, you could do a Molotov cocktail
pomegranate
with a bottle, I guess. No. Yeah. Anyway, so
you repurpose the bottle after you drink it.
Exactly. What today we were at a fair trying to sell those goods. Was a little slow because it wasn't hot enough today. Yeah. Oh, and also, I mean, since I'm at it, like, my good friend and business partner was absent for most of the day because that poor guy got scammed today.
Scammed.
Yeah.
We have an entire episode about scams if you want to know scams in Chile, but we're going to tell you about what happened to him.
Yeah, let me just quickly get into it so that thing doesn't happen to you. So he tried to sell a cell phone, and the buyer wanted to pay him via wire transfer, which, I guess is reasonable because we're talking about a big amount.
Yeah, and it's super normal here in Chile to transfer payments.
Exactly, and they don't use stuff like Venmo and stuff. I mean, there's stuff like that here, but people don't really use it. So he was a little bit suspicious from the get-go, but he decided to go with it. And, well, it turns out the buyer-to-be, or more like, didn't turn out not to be the buyer in the end.
I mean, she bought it.
No,
she got it.
She got it.
She didn't buy it.
And then she basically made a payment through Servipack, which was basically a check that she deposited. And he was led to believe that the money was deposited in his account. And now here's the kicker. You have to, when you're in a situation like that, when you sell your stuff and you want to check if the money has arrived, always check the saldo disponible, the disposable account balance.
Yeah, the available account balance.
And not the saldo contable, which is basically the accounted for account balance, if you will, because it will show in the saldo contable as available, but it would not show in the
just
saldo
don't take
disponible.
a check, you guys. Just don't take a check. Don't take a check.
Don't take a check.
I mean, it's like the U.S. Don't take a check, you might bounce.
Yeah, right. But they could basically tell you, no, we made a wire transfer, but they actually did deposit a check. So, but if you're not careful, you gotta check your account balance to see, okay, are those, I don't know, 300 luca or whatever, are they actually on my account or are they still pending? So
In
you gotta
my
be
account.
really in my account, yeah. So you gotta be really careful with that. So just cautionary tale. Don't make the same mistake and be safe, everybody.
Yeah, you didn't tell everybody where to get your product.
Oh yeah, well you can absolutely get our product at Limoland _CL. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You're looking for Limoland, and that should be enough to find us. So
LIMON.
exactly.
We'll put it in the description for this episode, so that if you want some, they're really, really good. I was given some free ones, and then I kept buying them for a while, so they're pretty delicious.
Why did you stop, Bethany?
I stopped because I don't like. If I didn't stop, I would never like. You know what I mean?
Great save.
I
okay,
mean,
let's just
no,
leave it
I
at
mean,
that.
no, for real. Ask Mal. I am a soda. Like I'm drinking soda right now. I love drinking sodas, and if they're not like 0 sugar, I will drink like 8 of them and be hopped up. I mean, they're super good because they're so natural.
Well, they are 0 sugar. I mean, 3 of those are 0 sugar, just like the natural fruit juice.
Yeah,
Sugar.
but if I drink like 18 of them in one day, okay.
Yeah,
All I'm trying to
can't
say
be good.
is
But that goes for everything.
Right, moderation. And so, I mean, I can't believe that the Diet Cokes that I drink aren't good either, obviously, for the aspartame reasons. But anyway, but they're super good. I highly, highly recommend them.
Thanks for letting me do the shout out.
Yeah. In the meantime, we're going to do more shout outs about events that are coming up in Santiago. So the closest event is on December 4th. It's going to be at Fiddler's Pub near, like right next to Metro Manuel Montt. It is going to be a bilingual comedy show hosted by the Chistolas. And is there anybody we know in the podcast? Is Pinguino in it? Pinguino, are you performing in the show? Yes, Pinguino's performing in the next show. So if you want to see Pinguino talk, and are you doing it in Spanish or English? He doesn't know yet. Or are you just quacking? He's going to just quack for like 15 minutes.
It's going to be
quack,
hilarious
quack,
quacking.
quack, 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 quack. Yeah.
And flap his little...
And fly with little flippers. It's a bilingual show. Some people are going to be doing comedy in English, some in Spanish, some both. So it's a really good time. It's at Fiddler's. We'll have more info on the Instagram. That's December 4th. And then on December 23rd, we're doing another horrible movie night that Pinguino and I are hosting. I know it's close to Christmas, but we're doing the Star Wars Christmas special, which was like banned by George Lucas because it was so bad.
And if it's banned, you know you gotta see it.
And if it's banned by George Lucas, because, I mean, you know, guys, some of the things that he's done haven't been, you know, the best. Nobody kill me. So, I mean, some of the stuff he does obviously is brilliant. Please, nobody hurt me. But, you know what I'm saying. So those are some events coming up. If you have an event that you want us to talk about on the show, you can email us at ChileTodayPodcast@gmail.com on Facebook or at Chile Today Podcast on Instagram.
Exactly. A Gmail Today Podcast at Chile.com.
That is what I was saying. We have news. I'm starting with news today, I think.
You do that.
Okay, so the first thing is this is sort of an update for something that we've talked about before, and that is there is a dossier? How do you pronounce
Dossier?
Dossier.
Is French?
Dossier in Australia about Australia's role in the 73 coup that Australia is refusing to release. Now, this has been a process that's been going on. We've talked about it before, but here's some updates. So, Clinton Fernandez, former Australian military intelligence officer, was denied access to documents that could shed light on the role that Australia played in the 73 military coup. Getting the documents declassified failed because of the decision by a Sydney appeals court, which examined the case for 5 months. Fernandez requested access in June. So that was the first time I think we talked about it. The court said the verdict was based on the Australian Archives Acts, which allowed keeping certain documents classified, quote, to preserve the government's capabilities to keep secrets as necessary. The court highlighted the law's importance for national security. Fernandez called the ruling an obscenity to the memory of the victims to continue hiding the truth. He added that the government should declassify the 50-year-old documents. The 73 coup was, of course, led by the military junta, headed by Augusto Pinochet. It overthrew Salvador Allende's government. If you guys don't know that story, welcome to Chile. The U.S. was definitely involved, and they found that out 100% when the U.S. declassified documents, but the extent of Australia's involvement remains unclear. So Australia has come under pressure to come clean on its involvement, but so far it is known that agents of the intelligence service ASIS, were sent to Chile in 1971, 2 years before the coup, at the request of the U.S., but most were called back to Australia or allocated to other services. One ASIS agent is known to have stayed in Chile after the coup, with some officers of Australian intelligence agency ASIO also having been in the country during the coup.
Asses. Yeah, we're 12 years old here.
We're adults. 12 plus.
Yeah. What makes
20.
you wonder what Australia has to hide?
Yeah,
huh?
what you trying to hide, Australia? What you trying to hide?
Oh.
Yeah, if they had nothing to hide, then why don't you just release your taxes? I mean, why don't you just release the documents?
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So much for Australia.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little news item here, not much more of a mention because there's really not that much to report on, but just so you guys know what's going on. Right now they're still discussing the Puerto Retiro, or
The
in
fourth
good old
withdrawal.
English, the fourth withdrawal from your AFP pension funds. Which is funny to think about because, I mean, if you think back like about a little bit more than a year ago when they were still discussing the first
It
withdrawal.
was super
everybody was
controversial,
like,
and now we're
what?
discussing the fourth.
Exactly, and they were like the fourth, and I think like at some points they're just like, yeah, whatever, you know, of course, like this is gonna happen.
Well, I heard that AFP investments have like gone up because of, or like, again, like the way that economies work, right? More money people have, the more money they put into the economy, and so the more money that you can then put back into the AFPs, because the AFPs are stimulated by stocks.
Yeah.
And so they're actually making more money, the more money that's being retired.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's you mean from that perspective might make sense. Oh man, I wouldn't.
So I mean, like the first withdrawal was really controversial because capitalists don't know how capitalism works, and then after that they're like, oh, we're making more money. Yeah, just keep going, man. But then the conflict arises that people who actually need the money,
Exactly.
the poor people, don't have any money left in their asset base.
Yeah, exactly. What you're gonna do, right? I mean, that's definitely gonna be a problem down the road, which will have to be tackled by, well, maybe not the next government, but well, hopefully the next government, but one of the.
Hopefully we'll still be here after the next government.
Yeah, that too. But at some point, I mean.
Just take bets. Will your house burn down first, or will mine?
Yeah, well, I think probably yours.
Depends on who gets voted in.
That's true, but you know.
I'm pretty sure the burning will happen if Cass gets voted in. So I'm pretty sure mine would get burned first.
Yeah.
Burn
probably.
down Las Condes first. First center, then the
That's
rich
true.
people.
I mean, I live
You
in
know, it's so
it's
neutral.
like middle of the road. Exactly.
It's very like
Switzerland.
yeah, it's very like nobody messes with Ñuñoa.
Yeah.
Like no, because it's got I don't know why nobody ever really goes there unless you're in the plaza.
It's just like I just vote.
Ñuñoa's a good place to live, is what we're trying to say. It's
Yeah,
a good
exactly.
place to live.
Move here. They're building a lot of buildings again, always.
Anyway, so you're talking about. Do you have anything else about the fourth?
The fourth withdrawal was in session today. They were actually planning for an hour, but I think it went on for more than that. They have to resolve a few differences that basically the upper and the lower house have there. And they were planning on discussing half of 18 proposals that they had on the docket, so which means 9. And part of those proposals were basically seeing if they are going to condition the withdrawal to basically catastrophic illnesses. Basically, what that is saying is you can only do your fourth withdrawal if you have like a catastrophic illness and you absolutely need those funds, or you have a really good reason to withdraw it. Another talking point.
So limiting.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you so I guess then again, how do you apply for that?
Yeah, well, no details for now, okay? I think this is something that's
No,
going to
I was just speculating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess there are a few qualifiers, which I wouldn't know what those are. But, yeah, well, that was one of the talking points. The other talking points was going to be if it's going to be taxed or not, as they did with the second withdrawal. And I just also read that the UDI, you want to say it?
That's the political party of Pinochet.
Exactly. That the UDI actually presented a proposal for funds to go basically a financial intermediator to prevent that people would get the money directly, which for me is kind of like, okay, what's the point then?
But then you have to like pay money for the mediator. You're just gonna lose money.
Yeah, like through a financial institution, which it's kind of a weird thing, but nothing.
We're allocating accountants now to each Chilean citizen. You have the human right to an accountant.
Exactly, but damn bureaucracy. I mean.
So, have you taken out any of your IFP funds?
Yeah, I have. I've been kind of like drawing it out. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I have, since I'm a foreign national, I have the option to opt out of the AFP. I think a lot of people do not know that.
They dissolved that actually. I don't think you can anymore.
Yeah. Well, then I did it right on time, which doesn't mean that
it was like 4 years ago that they stopped it or something. Like pretty recently.
Yeah, I did that in 2017, so I opted out. Which doesn't mean that I got all my money from the AFP back, because that would mean it would be pretty heavily taxed, and I was like, oh, I don't need that. So I just left it there to marinate. Yeah, I would be taxed like as an income tax, and I was like, I'd rather leave it there for now. But basically, what I did then, I paid my AFP funds. I still have to do monthly contributions to a pension fund of some sort, but it would go into a mutual fund. And now, since I am planning on getting my AFP funds at one point or another anyways, I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to get my money out. But I've been kind of like drawing it out because I don't really need it that much. So, like, I usually wait until, I don't want to say the last minute, but like the month before, basically the 1 year deadline. Yeah, the cutoff, exactly. It's usually 1 year. Also because, like, usually the moment that a withdrawal gets approved, there's going to be a run on the AFP. There's going to be a run on the AFP, and then which usually, or people assume that it's going to make values plummet. So I'd rather be like, okay, I don't need this for myself, and I don't need this for anybody else. It's like I don't want to contribute to that problem, so I'd rather wait a little bit. So yeah, so that's how I've been.
So that was a long way around of saying yes.
With a lot of useful information, of course.
Okay, so no, I haven't taken out any IFAs. Not that I really have money, because as a teacher, it's not like I'm getting a lot of stuff put in there. But do you have anything else to contribute to the...
For that one, no.
Okay, so I have the fact that Chile is reopening the land borders ahead of summer. Some people were confused about this. Borders are already open, but land borders are not yet, or they will be on December 1st. So Chileans' land borders will open on December 1st, as I said. 2.5 months after we reopened air travel, the Minister of Health, Enrique Perez, said that more details will follow, but assured that the move will be progressive and with a lot of control. He indicated the decision was made in light of the public's need to travel to neighboring countries. Like, for example, a lot of people go to Mendoza, or like a lot of people, vice versa, and stuff like that. I mean, there's also a lot of other, northern borders things, but let's not get into the conflict there. So, Paris also announced that at the beginning of December, people over 45 will also need a booster shot to maintain their mobility pass, which we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. It was people over 55. Now we have the deadline for people over 45. If you do not have your booster shot yet, you're probably eligible. So check that out. He emphasized that those in that age group have already completed 6 months since their last shot will need a booster to be eligible for mobility passes. Otherwise, their pass will be disabled, regardless of how many prior inoculations they have had, which means they won't be able to travel, land or air. He expressed the hope that by implementing this measure, Chile could avoid ICU admissions, death, and infection. We are now experiencing a rise in COVID cases with an average of 2,000 or more a day, despite our vaccination programs. The rise has motivated the government to, among other things, knock the metropolitan region back to phase 3, which we are currently in. The government is trying to walk the line between containment of the virus and relaxation of restrictions as the southern hemisphere enters its tourism season. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, but that's always like... On the one hand, people say, okay, cases are on the rise as soon as we get into winter, because this is usually when...
and then tourism... Cases are just on the rise because we're doing what we're just humans.
So basically, regardless of what season we're in, we're screwed,
Yeah,
for different reasons.
Get your vaccinations, people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Chile initially required 5-day quarantine, and now we don't. That's the last of the thing that I was going to say.
Yeah, which is...
That's nice.
Nice, yeah.
Coming back to Chile, the last time I traveled abroad, I went to visit my family, and I had to do the 5-day. I didn't have to do the 10-day, which is good, because the 10-day is obviously more than the 5 day.
Yeah, this is how math works.
Yeah, and when you live with somebody, like I live with my boyfriend, he also had to quarantine. So it was good that it was only 5 days, not 10.
Exactly.
So.
Now, the thing is, like, when you come back, you still have to wait for the result of the PCR test that you're gonna do at the airport. So in practice, yes, it's a little
I never
quarantine.
got my PCR results from when I came back from the U.S.
Yeah, well, they don't send it to you through mail. You got to check on the website. Well, they give you a little slip, and then they there's like a code and a website address that you have to manually
Definitely
check.
didn't look at that.
Yeah, so.
But I also did the 5 day quarantine and like the 10 days of just having to be like no symptoms, no symptoms. Did you ever have to do that? No.
Every day. But like the last time I came back, there wasn't really that. I didn't get that every day, and
I got an email every single day.
Log on like manually. It was like screw that. They don't want to know it.
Oh no! Every single day they send you a notification, and you have to do it every single day, or they yell at you. They're like, "Do this."
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, but you would have to manually check for the PCR result, and basically until that result is there, you cannot leave your house. But last time I did that, and I just came back from Europe on beginning of November actually. And the PCR test result was there like within 8 hours.
Yeah,
so
somebody said they're really fast. They're super fast.
Now they are.
Well, Mary traveled in August as soon as the borders opened. Like she traveled day after the borders opened. So I guess August. And she got back and it was less than 24 hours when she got her results. But she still had to do the 10-day quarantine because at that point it didn't matter.
But now we're getting into summer season, land borders open. So
I'm going to Mexico next week.
So maybe they're going to take a little longer for the PCR test results now.
Right, just from the cantidad, the quantity of people coming in and out and all around the country. So we'll see what that happens. What you got for me, Lenny?
Well, I got a little dry piece of news as it seems, but I think it's something that should be mentioned. So gringos rejoice, or at least if you earn your salary abroad, because the day after the election the dollar peso exchange rate dropped in favor of the dollar, if you will. Well,
so
it depends on
really
what side. Yeah, exactly.
If you have dollars, gringos laying in an account, spend your dollars right now.
Exactly.
Do your
you
credit
get
card.
more pesos for less dollars. And so basically on Monday the dollar dropped by 25 pesos, breaking the 800 pesos barrier.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. But that just didn't last that long.
No, I mean, every single election, everybody's always like, haha!
Exactly.
Every election, doesn't matter if it's the right or the left, the dollar, that happens in the U.S. The dollar drops after every single election.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat.
Exactly.
Every single time.
At the same time, the stock market surged by 8.3%. And as you just said, people were like, see, election thing, And they said like this last night the stock market jumped like this was like in November 2019 after the signing of the constitutional agreement. Now the dollar dropped by 30 pesos and then recovered 5 pesos, so effectively just dropped by 25 pesos. And they said it was the biggest drop since 2008. But now, make no mistake, this is not to say that this is the lowest the pesos has gotten since 2008. That's a misconception. It's just the most sudden drop. Basically, in mid-November, the dollar was actually at below 800 pesos too, So it was like at 780 or something.
Yeah, pandemic peso thing.
So what they meant is just like, it just dropped by a significant amount within one day, instead of
a sharp downturn. But makes sense, again, we're having an election, election post-pandemic, we don't even know who won yet.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Exactly.
So, like, nobody get your panties in a wad about which candidate meant which thing, not about the dollar, okay?
Now, we had a few more professionals chiming in on this whole thing, and one of them his name was Cristian Solito Bando, who is the ex-CEO of the Santiago stock market. And he assumes that...
He's not biased at all.
No, not at all. And he assumes that it's because the Congress is more or less in a stalemate situation right now, which we're going to get into in a little bit, in which both blocs will have to reach across the aisle to forge agreements. And, personally, and that's just my opinion, I think that, like, him and a lot of the people basically from the more conservative part, they're a little bit relieved that the left-wing politicians didn't sweep the Congress, as a lot of people were just concerned they would. That didn't happen.
They swept the Constitutional Convention.
Yeah, exactly, because they saw what happened during the plebiscite, the referendum, and they were like, okay, let's see if this is going to happen again. That did not happen, so I guess they were a little bit relieved.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that here in a second.
And Mr. Francisco Errandonia, who
Don
is
Francisco.
Don Francisco Errandonia, the CEO of Soy Focus, he maintains that these sudden market movements are basically typical right after the elections, which is what you just mentioned, Bethany. So basically, you could just take his job. Yeah. You're just disqualified. CEO.
You know, economists,
basically. Stuff.
They do real things. Real jobs. Let's talk about the elections.
All right, the elections, right? I think there are 3 words that basically describe best what happened last Sunday, which would be what the fuck.
Are you shitting my dick?
Yeah, pretty much. That's
more than 3 words, but...
Yeah, but who's counting?
5.
Yeah, talking about elections, yeah. So, in a way, the big result was not much of a surprise.
Yeah.
Boric and Kast made it to the runoff. Mm-hmm. However, what was a big surprise was the candidate that came in 3rd place, which was Mr. Franco Parisi.
Yeah. If you want more specific, in-depth details about our candidates, listen to the previous episode. But as a reminder, Parisi is the guy who's not allowed to step foot in Chile because he would get arrested if he did, because he has not paid his child support. So somehow people thought that he should be president, even though he's not allowed in the country.
Exactly. Now let's first talk about the general result of the election, with basically Kast and Boric making it to the runoff round. Mm-hmm. And Kast winning the first round by a margin. Let's say it's not a slim margin, but it was close enough.
It was super close. They're both in their late 20s. They're 20%.
Exactly. Not close enough so that it could be disputed, but it was close.
No, it was close. It was like what was the actual percentage? 28 to 28 point algo to 26 point algo.
Yeah, it was I think Kast was 28 point something and Boric was in the lower 26 or the upper 25th percentile.
Right.
So yeah, that was a 2-point difference between the 2 candidates. Now, the thing is, people might ask themselves, okay, what happened? Because if you just looked at what happened in 2019, when basically people just took to the streets and basically forced the plebiscite, the 2020 plebiscite, in which more than 50% of the electorate went out to vote, and they voted, 78% of that voted for approval, which kind of, gave you a very clear picture of left-wing tendencies. One would assume that Boric should have won the first runoff, but that wasn't.
Well, especially since the original primaries, the first primaries, which again, that was we talked about in the last podcast how Sicho was really gaining a lot of momentum in that first one, even though Jadwe and Boric got more votes than individually than all of the right-wing candidates put together.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot. We're not political analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're listening to this to get
disclaimer.
Yeah, go to our news affiliate ChileToday.cl and read some real news. We're here to entertain and to inform.
I mean, excuse me. I think I've mentioned on the last episode already that I do have a diploma from Reddit University and a doctorate from Wikipedia Institute.
Oh well, I have 2 doctorates from Wikipedia.
Oh, damn you! Well, we're absolutely qualified then.
I know. So, and I actually read peer-reviewed articles from Wikipedia.
Nerd.
So, anyway, so there's a lot of speculation as to, as you were talking about, as to why this is.
Exactly.
People expected a larger vote turnout than what happened, because we had such a huge turnout for the original primary elections. There were less people turning out today, and the majority of the people who did turn out were from those right-wing neighborhoods.
Yeah,
because things are split into districts.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say the majority, because, I mean, Kast won a relative majority.
No. I just mean, if you look at the neighborhoods, the typically more conservative, richer neighborhoods had, above 50% of the population of those neighborhoods coming out, while all of the other neighborhoods, basically in the country, had less than that, varying depending on the... And I think that there was probably so many people were shocked on Sunday. I imagine a lot of people didn't vote because they were just like,
what's the worst that's going to happen?
What's the worst that's going to happen as Kast pulls ahead into the first place spot? So people are shitting themselves right now, scared.
I mean, I read an op-ed on an English-speaking website English language
English
website.
speaking.
Yeah, the website spoke to me. On an English language website who took a stab at explaining what happened there, which I don't know if I agree with all of the author's opinion, but I think he made a few salient points there. So basically what the author was saying there that yes, Chileans still do want more social rights in the constitution, which is why they basically took to the streets to begin with, but he says like the general tenor is they do want pragmatic and moderate changes to the constitution. However, they are hesitant to throw out the baby with the bathwater. So now whether or not this is justified.
Wait, what does baby with the bathwater mean?
They're basically saying, okay, yeah, we do want changes, but not that radical, you know, not like.
But do like at the
right. Yeah, no, but like, okay, now one thing is that what the author says, but I think he tried to reflect a little bit the basically sensation that went through the whole populace there. Whether or not they are right with this fear, that's a different thing. And that's what I'm saying, like whether or not this is justified, like people fear that the economic success of the country will be in jeopardy if too many changes to the economic models is made. You know, again, debatable.
I think people don't understand how much Cast himself wants to make changes to the economic. Yeah, see, I'm a professional here. Economic model. Because he has, in my opinion, much more extreme changes than Boric has. They associate Boric with the Communist Party because the Communist Party is within his coalition. Yes. He himself is not a communist. So there's an assumption of radical economic change there, when in reality, if you look at both of their, both of what they have proposed, Cast is much more radical. There's also that thought of like, oh, well, it's radical right-wing capitalist. It's just, some of it's just unwise in the long run. Just like wanting to privatize the one nationalized business in Chile. It's like
which is a big moneymaker for the
state.
Yeah,
it's a big moneymaker for the entire country. It's a big moneymaker for people who like for salaries for government workers and also the military.
It's 11% of Chile's income.
Yeah,
11% of Chile's.
It's 11% of Chile's income, and this guy wants to privatize it, and it's like you that if you don't think that's a radical change, you I don't know what to do with you at this point. Absolutely. I don't know what to tell you. Exactly. All I'm gonna have to say is you need to get a degree from Wikipedia University, ma'am,
like
or sir, or non-binary.
Exactly. Yeah, well, as you just said, Bethany, I mean, people have this irrational fear of basically Boric making communist move because he is allied with a communist party, which people are basically skeptical, or basically they suspect them. They don't trust the Communist Party. A lot of people do not trust the Communist Party here.
We could go into so many like historical things about Chile to like talk
and
about fear mongering.
If it's not that, then people also think Boric is too young, which is a point. I don't think
35 is not. I think how is that? What?
Well, I guess you just associate presidents with being old and gray. And
honestly, but again, how old was Obama when he was elected?
But again, you know, it's not. I think the point that the author was making is those are like
he has a beard. Fears. How dare he have a beard?
Yeah, well, he has a beard.
Be clean shaven, have less tattoos.
He's got it. Well, Sichel got tattoos too. This is why he didn't make it to the runoff.
If Sichel hadn't had tattoos,
it didn't help that he was already a father. He got tattoos, and that really ruined it.
Oh yeah, again, Cast has 9 children. Boric has 0, so obviously Boric lacks vital experience in life. Exactly. We're making fun of a quote that Sichel.
Exactly. You know, that was actually one point that the author made, which I think does have a leg to stand on. He said that over the last couple of years, crime really has become a problem, and now Boric has not really tackled this so much on the campaign trail. That was more.
He's released some things today, specifically about crime.
Exactly, because he knows now that he's in the runoff, he has to pander a little bit more towards the center, right?
Right, and if you listened to Cast's speech on Sunday, his entire me and my friends started taking drinks every time he said delinquency.
Yeah.
Because his entire speech.
That was his platform.
His entire speech was the delinquents in the street are coming to burn your house down.
Exactly.
And that was his entire thing. And so Boric knows now, okay, his entire platform is people are trying to take your shit, and he knows he's got to tackle delinquency.
Exactly. And whether you like it or not, this is something that really moves the populace right now, and people are
fear-mongering.
Yeah, it's fear-mongering, and they're worried about that. And now, actually, that was one of Cast's main platform points, Boric hasn't really tackled it that much, so I guess that comes back to bite him in the ass right now. And he knows, as you just said, like he just made a speech on Sunday because he knows he has to basically flesh this point out a little bit if he wants to win the election, if he wants to basically win the runoff. Also, another thing that he said, which I thought was really interesting, because people say, what do you have right now? Somebody from the far right and somebody from, let's say, for Chileans, far left. Personally, I don't think it's that far left.
No,
but let's,
people like
for
Boric
Chilean
is not
standards,
far left.
For Chilean standards, it's far
But
left.
people, it's interesting because
Yeah.
Boric is not far left, but people, there are a lot of messages trying to convince Chileans that Boric
Right.
is far left.
Yeah, exactly.
When he's really not, again, because he is supported and is in the same coalition as the Socialist Party and the Communist Party.
But he's one of the most leftist candidates that Chile has had since
Really, more than Artes? Oh, you
No,
meant
but like let's say that made it to the second round at least, the serious
But
candidates.
wasn't who went up at Gied? Wasn't he like what party was Gied in?
Gied was a little bit more to
I
the
mean, he
center.
definitely was like action-wise to the center.
Yeah.
But what party was he in? Okay,
Yeah.
so Gied was ex Partido Radical.
Yeah.
Either way, like a lot of people did. Well, the thing is a lot of actual leftists didn't like Gied because he very much pandered to the right. But I mean, I can't speak to the most leftist candidate that Chile's had or not. Because I don't know enough about the past elections.
Right. Well, case in point here is that people might look at the result of the two, basically look at the two candidates that are going into the runoff and think that Chile is polarized. Chile really isn't that much polarized. What Chile is right now in terms of the electorate is fragmented, because if you actually look at it, both candidates, neither of them got more than, they actually got less than 30% of the votes, and actually if you take all the moderates together they have more percentage points than either of the two leading candidates. So you have a very, very fragmented electorate.
So it was really important to see which candidates were going to come out in support of which other candidates. So Provoste, who is moderate left, came out very quickly in support of Boric.
Yeah.
The Christian Democrats are in support of Boric. What is it? The RN? Was it the RN who said that they will not support Cast, but they are not going to write a blank check to Boric?
No, that was Sichel. That was Sichel. The RN actually came out in support of Cast. Now Sichel, who is officially an independent, he did say, well, we have. I'm not going to endorse Boric, but I do have my differences with Cast. So it was kind of wishy-washy.
He's being a moderate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's being someone that doesn't want to take a side.
Exactly.
So and moderate.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it is funny because like neither of the political parties or the former presidential candidates came really out.
Has anybody come besides Udi? Udi, of course, which is the political party of Pinochet, has come out in support of Cast. But has anybody else come out like as far as political parties? I mean, a lot of people said they're not going to vote for Boric. Right. But besides Udi, who has said they're coming out in support of Cast?
No, but that's the thing. It's like most of
Ivopoli?
They called for a vote on Cast.
Right. I mean, most of the political parties, they didn't come out in favor of a candidate, but they came out in basically saying we're not supporting this candidate. That was kind of like remarkable.
Well, except for Provoste and Meo immediately came.
No, but I watched. I'm sorry, like I disagree here because I watched Meo's speech, and Meo at no point in his speech did Meo say that
he did later. He did like the next day. He said he was gonna support Boric. Yes, 100%.
Because in that speech he was just like, okay, Boric is up to you. And I mean, it was so clear that
Boric, it's up to you. That's coming out in favor of Boric.
You're right, yeah, but he wasn't really. It's like I'm gonna support you. It's just kind of like, okay,
Boric,
it's up to you to win this now in a way, you know.
Okay, now it's just politics. Semantics. Now it's just semantics.
But it's politics.
He 100% threw his weight behind Boric. It's like, for me, not even.
Exactly.
Boric, it's up to you to defeat Cast means you're putting your favor.
Right, exactly. I mean, he was never a friend of Cast policies. He made this very clear.
He's very close anyway to Boric.
And he made a good point. He made a good point because he said basically the same thing that George Jackson said at a later point, that what Boric has to do now, he has to basically, Mayo said he has to distance himself a little bit more from the far left ideas to win over the more moderate electorate. And basically, George Jackson said that Boric needs to broaden and diversify his campaign, which is two different ways of basically saying the same thing, pander a little bit more towards the center.
And the thing is of the Frente Amplio, if any of those people from the Frente Amplio is gonna reach across the aisle, it's gonna be Boric, because I mean he had that like whole nickname of being amarillo, which in Chilean speak means that you're not necessarily playing to the party line all the time, and it's like an insult in the way that you refuse to like take a line and just be stern on it, because Boric very much is like, oh well, okay, I can see your side.
Which is not a bad quality to have, to be honest, especially the way that the Congress turned out.
Right, but with these coalitions, if you don't know, in Chile, they get very upset if you're not playing with the party line on both sides. And Boric has violated those party lines several times in his career by reaching towards the moderates or the leftists or whatever, and it's made a lot of people mad. I remember, what was it? Was it 2020
when
he
should be like, hold my beer?
Yeah. See, but again, nobody gives a shit on the right. Like, what? Okay, whatever. But what was it? He broke with the party line over in 2020, I think, over certain laws about looting in protests. Mm-hmm. And there's a really famous video of like him sitting in one of the parks near where he lives in La Stadia, and people coming up to him and pouring beer on his head. And he's just sitting there on the bench, and like 10 people come up and just pour, and he just sits there, and it's just like, and all because also the thing about Boric is like he's very much pro like protesting, and so I think in his mind this very much was like, this is your way. He wasn't gonna fight back. He was just gonna be like, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna let you pour the shit on my head. I made a decision, and I'm sticking with my decision.
And I don't know who said, like, just reminds me of this quote I once heard. I don't know if it was an American, English, German politician, like, said that politics is the art of the possible, which I think is
probably fucking German.
Yeah, it may be, but I mean, I think he's got a point. In a way, it's like, yeah, I mean, you can be a hardliner, but in the end, like, if you have to work with Congress, well, you better then make sure you get those votes, you know, and you got to compromise at some point.
And I think, I mean, honestly, no matter if you're left leaning or right leaning, I do think like one thing, Cass is not a dumb person, but he is not compromising. Boric is much more compromising than Cass ever will be. Exactly. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully more people get out and vote, so we can have a better understanding of what people are doing and what the people actually want, because it's quite confusing right now. With you have 80% for approval, and then you had the first primary elections where the left wing just dominated the constitutional election, where the left wing dominated. Suddenly we have this extreme right candidate that gets all these votes, and it's people were absolutely shocked. And it's funny because I kept saying to my students and to my friends who are Chilean, I kept saying, like, because they're like, oh yeah, Cass is never going to get a majority, or he's never, ever, ever. And I was like, dude, I have Trump trauma. And I told all of them, I never say never. And so I went over to my friend's house to watch these elections, and all of them are like shocked jaws on the ground. And I'm just like sipping my beer like, I don't want to say I told you so, but all I'm trying to say is I kind of told you so. Like, I was not shocked at all. Because
it's good to be prepared mentally.
Right. So it's going to be a really interesting month, and we're going to keep you updated on this podcast. Is that your cell phone?
That is my
How
cell phone.
unprofessional.
Totally put this
How
on mute right now.
unprofessional.
I'm so sorry.
Do you have more to add for that section?
Yeah, well, actually, let's get back a little bit to...
let's get back on track.
Let's get back to endorsements, because there's actually one party that we haven't mentioned yet, or one candidate that we haven't mentioned yet, because Parisi's party. Now,
Parisi.
Because Parisi, Paris E, he's probably going to be the kingmaker in this one.
Which makes who votes for a guy who can't even come back to the country?
I kind of want to talk about this a little bit.
I have theories.
Oh, there are theories, but this is going to be interesting because people say, okay, we know where most of the votes from the other parties are going to go to. I mean, it's clear that
Uli is going to definitely, if you're Provost, is going to be Boric.
Uli is going to be cast. Now, Paris is going to be like, okay, this guy is conservative in... they're economically liberal, which panders a little bit more to the to Cast, but they're also like socially liberal, which panders a little bit more to the side towards the side of Boric. So people don't really know what's gonna happen. So basically, what this guy did, this guy is probably feeling like $1 million right now, and people say,
getting $1 million, he's not gonna give to his kids.
He was exactly, use those $1 million to support your kids, but okay. He was planning on inviting Cast and Boric to his live streams to let his followers decide. The balls on that guy. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just invite the two frontrunners to my little Instagram live
So, like,
to just hash it out.
who am I gonna vote for? Who am I gonna let all my constituents? And honestly, there's a part of me that feels like his constituents, because there was a survey that was recently came out that said everybody already knows who they're gonna vote for. Like, everybody has already made their decision. So it doesn't really matter. I feel like what Parisi says, I feel like all of these surveys are like people have made up their minds, even because now it's just Castro Boric. It's not complicated. It's you're either going to vote for one thing or the other thing.
And that's the thing, you know, I think that's...
I have talked to somebody who's on the fence, but I don't think, like, that's weird. To be on the fence at this point with somebody, two people who are so extreme.
Exactly, and that's the main difference between this election and the elections that we had before. For example, the last election was between, I think, Guillermo and Piñera, which is kind of like, one is a little bit more to the left, one is a little bit more to the right.
I mean,
like,
most of my friends annulled on that election.
Right.
Because a lot of my friends are from different sides, and they didn't trust Piñera from the first government, and they didn't trust Guillermo because he claims to be from the left, and then he does really shitty things that are super corrupt.
Right.
And so a lot of them like went and just didn't vote.
Yeah, but in the end of the day, they were still like muddling somewhere around the
center
line. And you could go like, okay, let's look at the programs, but now we got this guy on the very far right and the other guy that has extremely leftist progressive ideas, and you go like, oh, okay, this is really a no-brainer. You're either on this side or on that side.
If you're in the middle, which again, I talked to somebody today who was in the middle, and it was just like there was no... He kept talking in circles, and he wasn't in the middle. It was very obvious about who he was going to vote for, which is he finally came, because he was just like, oh yeah, Cass is bad for this, but I'm still not sure. And I was like, I think you're just fucking with me. I think you're just fucking with me. So I feel like for first of all, fuck Parisi. Like, why are you doing that shit? Like, again, he's being an asshole because I mean, yeah, of course, Pinguino's saying money. Right, because his people who voted for him know who they're going to vote for. And the person I was talking to today, because he won, I think, first place in Concepcion. And I have a student I have two students who live in Concepcion. And they were saying the reason why a lot of people in Concepcion were voting for him is because people in Conce, for some reason, did not want another typical politician.
Exactly.
And Cast and Boric are very much politically aligned, while Parisi literally doesn't live in Chile.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, for me, that's a ridiculous reason to vote for somebody who cannot come. I mean, not if he was living in Chile, okay, I could see what you're doing, but he's not legally allowed in this country. He's literally like, I can be a president via Zoom. Like, you're not allowed in this country because you're a rich asshole who will not pay your child support. Like, which is
such a red flag.
Like, yeah, like you. Oh my gosh, it's not like he's like a political prisoner or somebody who's just in another, it's because he won't pay for his children to live. Yeah. It's like, what? Guys?
Yeah, let's talk about Parisi a little bit more. I mean, he's a jerk, but I mean, it's an interesting thing because nobody really expected this guy to come. Nobody. I mean, not
again,
even
that's
third,
why.
not
That's
fourth,
why.
not fifth. Everybody was just like, you're gonna be there down there with Abdes or something.
We talked about it on our last episode.
So we're not gonna even drop his name.
We did not
even
go into we went into detail about Sichel.
Yeah.
And Cass and Boric and Provoste. And we didn't even really. We just made fun of.
Exactly,
Parisi for a while.
And then all of a sudden, boom, third place. And like, what just happened? And it kind of goes to show that like a few news outlets made the argument that that was kind of like a protest vote, that people are just fed up with traditional politicians.
There's that as well.
As you said, well, Kast is like, okay, he's kind of like extreme, like he's like on the very far fringes of the right, and he has this new party, which is the Republicans, but he still got that URI stank. And then Boric, also him being a progressive student leader, whatever, but he got that communist stank. So like people like, I don't like your affiliations. So Parisi just got I guess.
He just got the I'm a bad dad stank.
I hate the stank, so yeah, exactly.
He just got the I'm a bad dad stank, and you know how people are really, really able to ignore that.
Yeah, exactly. So I read this interview with this political scientist called Claudia Heiss, and she was like rather surprised by Parisi's good results, especially considering that he's like rather apolitical, if you will, and he has not really presented any collective projects, and is mostly out to benefit himself.
Does it sound like I'm peeing right now?
But this makes him generally more attractive to the right wing, and this is actually a very important point. It makes him very attractive to the right wing, who is more amenable to like anti-politics.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. This is important.
So yeah, so basically that makes him more attractive to the right wing, who's more amenable to anti-politics rhetoric.
Sure.
And in 2013, if you look back, like half of the votes, he was in the race, and half of the votes in the runoff went basically to the UDI candidate, which was Evelyn Matei back then, and the other half abstained. Like probably not 50-50 split, but it was most of the other half abstained from voting. So that's kind of a red flag. So now, although Kast is independent right now, he ran as an independent, and he tries to distance himself from the establishment. Like, his legacy is still too close to the UDI.
No, I mean...
Probably something similar to 2013 might happen. I really hope it doesn't, but signs are there.
I mean, and again, a lot of it...
What happened in 2013?
In 2013, basically, he had people said that most of his votes in the runoff went to the UDI candidate, and the other half was just like, screw that, I'm not going to know?
Okay.
Yeah, Mao and all his friends annulled.
Okay.
All of his friends.
Exactly. And this guy, he won, get that, he won the region of Antofagasta with 35%. Like, he was third nationwide, but he actually scored, he was first in Antofagasta, and he was second in 3 other regions.
I don't get it.
And like, those were the 3 northernmost regions.
There was this joke that was going around the night that I was like at the it wasn't a party, there was like a few people together to watch the election results, as people from the US know we do as gringos, which is catching on here among my friends. It's catching on because I'm like, who wants to watch the elections together?
It's like
all my friends are like, why would
you?
you do that? And I'm like, because it's kind of fun, like get drunk and like drink every time that Cass says delinquency. Like, come on, it's fun.
It's like Game of Thrones, just that you might die.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Hold on to your hats, women, immigrants, people who are minorities in Chile.
Yeah.
Hold on to your britches. What was I going to say? Oh, there was this joke going around that was like, in Antofagasta, Parisi won because that's all where the minors are, who are having to pay child support to their divorced wives who didn't want to be married to minors who were gone like 3 months out of the 3 weeks out of the month.
Yeah. Well, actually, you're joking, but according to what this political scientist Francis Espinosa said, that is actually not too far off. I mean, okay, well, that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but he said that basically the second region, which is Antofagasta, is probably the most neoliberal region there is, which has to do with mining.
The mining, because that's where all the mines are.
Money, and people are in general, they're disappointed with traditional parties. So people want more independence there and liberties, which makes Parisi's proposal so appealing. And if you look at the electoral map,
Parisi does have a lot of interesting ideas about mining.
Right, and like all the northern regions either went to Parisi, like Antofagasta, or he actually scored second place on that one. So
right, except for the extreme north, which is the racist. No, because they got cast.
Yeah, Cast won, but Parisi got in second.
Well, yeah, but that makes sense to me. I just meant like the extreme north because of racist immigration, kind of stuff. Cast won.
Exactly, immigrating racists. So.
Oh God. I mean, it's not far from the truth, depending on what country you're coming from. Let's be honest. I mean, I've heard some doozies from immigrants, including my own family from Bolivia, who voted for Cast, which makes no sense. People.
If you don't mind, let's just briefly touch on turnout.
I mind. I'm kidding. No.
Yeah. Okay. No. Like the turnout was not great.
Nope.
It was 7.1 million, which was about 47% of the electorates. Now, the thing is, you have to put this a little bit in perspective. You have to put this a little bit, into perspective, because historically, and we're talking about like 10, 20 years back, turnout has always been between 80 and 90%, but voting was compulsory.
Right.
And then they changed that law at around, I think it was in 2013 or the years before that, and then in the 2013 election, that turnout dropped to 49.43% and has never really recovered since
They're trying to make it obligatory again to vote.
Yeah, I'm kind of split on that one, but okay, let's not get into that right now. So basically, this turnout, as I said, like this turnout was about 47%, which is a bit higher than the 2019 elections, which had a turnout of about 47%, but still lower than the 2020 plebiscite, which had about 51%. So we're talking about a couple of percentage points. It really doesn't.
You say a couple of percentage points. That's still a couple million people.
That is true. But if you just put this into perspective, it's not. There's a big jump there. And the thing is, like, you have to compare this on an international scale, and this is abysmal. Compare this to the U.S., where usually the turnout is about 67%. Compare this to Germany, where 77%.
And there's a lot of interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of things that let me get my brain together because I'm drinking pisco. So that's what you heard me pouring. I was like, does it sound like I'm peeing while you were talking? I was not letting people pay attention to you. I'm sorry. I love you. Okay, so for example, I was at my friend's house watching the elections, and the election institution, Sevel, says that if you're in line when the polls close, you are allowed to vote. But in a lot of the poorer regions, they were closing the gates and not letting those people vote. And the poorer regions typically continue to be the more left-leaning, especially in Santiago, the more left-leaning areas. While in Providencia, people were still waiting in line. In Loranchea, people were still waiting in line. They were allowed to vote. So there was all of this hubbub about like people being turned away, and then the Cerveza being like, oh no, we just directed them to a different table, a different place. But then again, these are poor people who might not have the ability to go across town. I kept hearing that there were no micros available, that there was like a lack of taxis, because again, the taxi drivers, they have to go vote themselves. Right. So if you've got a car, it is so much more accessible, which of course, the people who have cars, they live in Loranchea, they live in the more right-wing areas. If you don't got a car, the only way you can get to your polling station maybe is a micro or the metro or one of those things. And especially the more and more poorer places, it has to be a micro. Yeah. And I just kept hearing so much on the internet, like, where are the micros? Where are they? I can't find, like, there's no buses running. And so it makes me think that there has to be, as political as Chile is, because it is, we just had a social movement. There has to be something in there that is like, that voting is not accessible, like physically not accessible for certain people.
That too, but then again, if you think about, again, the US, right? Because I think
everyone in the U.S. has a car.
Yeah, but the thing is, but not everybody. That's also like poor people. Voter suppression is a lot more of a thing in the U.S., right? And the U.S. doesn't even vote on a weekend. They vote on a weekday, which is a big thing for people that are from poor areas.
I will intervene and say there is early voting in the U.S. No, voter suppression is real. It is 100% real in the U.S. However, the whole micro situation is different, because even if you don't have a car in the U.S., because I've been that person without a car.
By the way, micro service was free here, which doesn't mean that there were, of course,
I'm not saying price prohibitive right now. I'm just saying availability of transportation. Right. If you're standing in the sun for 45 minutes and there's no micro, what are you going to do? I got to get back to my job because I own my mini market, and time is literally money. I've been standing in the heat. That was horrible for 45 minutes waiting for a micro, and I'm literally losing the money that my family needs by standing here. What are you going to do?
Exactly.
You're going to go home. Yeah. Because you already think, especially if you already think you know what the results are going to be.
Exactly. Now, since you just mentioned this whole thing, this controversy that happened, that people were actually turned away from the polling station, let me just mention, if you listen to this and that happened to you, what you should do, basically, if you arrived at the polling station on time, but you weren't admitted, you were turned away, you should file a complaint with the delegate of the election directorate of the station in question. Because the TRICEL, the Tribunal Calificador de Elecciones, or the Electoral Court in English, they can even mandate a new voting round in that station if it finds that the voting rights have been infringed upon. So if that happened to you, that wasn't right, make yourself heard, file a complaint, because that ain't right, man.
It was such a big deal that it started trending on Instagram. I'm not trying to, that's not the word you say on Instagram, that's Twitter. But it was like all over Instagram that Cervera was like posting things like, no, you're allowed to vote. And on the TV, there was a woman holding up her Instagram on her cell phone and like yelling at the people that were working the tables and the carabineros, because the carabineros were standing there not letting these people in.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're standing there, it's cutoff time, it's 6 o'clock, and they're standing right at the gate like, we just want to vote. And you also have to remember that the people working these polling stations are not volunteers. They're forced to work there, and they want to fucking go home. So they're going to do anything that they can in their power to go home.
Yeah.
But that, you can't do that. You can't, people have a right to vote. So we're probably going to have 2 parts of this episode. So just to remind you here at the end of the episode of the events coming up, December 4th, that is going to be the bilingual comedy show at Fiddlers. There will be more information about that on our page. Also on the Chistolas page, at the Chistolas, TheChistol. CHISTOLAS. That She Stole Us. Facebook.com/That She Stole Us.
And the winner of the spelling bee is...
Guys, That She Stole Us @gmail.com. All that stuff. Or you can contact us for any questions you have about that. Then there is the horrible movie night where we watch a horrible movie, laugh our heads off, and get to meet new people, which is really fun. That's on December 23rd. So if you're here, you don't know what to do close to Christmas, and you're alone, because I've been that gringo, come out, hang out with us. Maybe you can tag along with us doing gringo things. And that'll be at the Black Rock. Again, more info coming up at you as that develops. Check out our page. And again, that's from the Chistolas. So CHISTOLAS, yeah?
I think so.
Chistolas. Chiste-and-olas.
Cheers,
She stole us, so check that out. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you have questions, comments, corrections, criticisms, let us know. We want to hear from you. We are at the Chile Today podcast.
No death threats, please.
No death threats,
Not
please.
again.
Oh my God, I know he's German, but
Come on, cut me some slack.
cut him some slack. My favorite kind of cheese. Okay, so... okay.
It's a Pisco speaking. I guess.
That's a Pisco. It's been a long night. So we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And when in doubt,
Gringo out.
bye.
Bye.
The Chile Today podcast is written by Bethany Francis and Leonard Kluge.
Oh, come on.
And it is directed and edited by Podcast Pinguino, a.k.a. Diego Rivera, the Amazing.
We should do this another day.
I think that's a cute outro.
Leonard